Hi, this is Simon Hill for Digital Trends, and today we're looking at some handy tips and tricks for Sony's Xperia XZ3, which is this beautiful smartphone you see before you. Now, this has a 6-inch OLED screen, and because Sony hasn't really caught on to the bezel-less trend, there's also fairly sizable bezels top and bottom, and that makes it a very tall phone and a big phone that can be difficult to handle one-handed. But Sony's thought about that and it's put some software options in. So if you go into Settings and find the display section and then tap on Advanced, scroll down a little bit here, you'll see that there's a one-handed option. Make sure that's toggled on. Now, if you want to shrink the display down so it's a little bit easier, you can swipe left to right and it pops out like this. If you drag this corner, you can actually resize it, so you can make it really quite small if you want. When you're done with it, just tap on an empty space and it goes back to full screen. Another option that's quite handy in here, if we go back into Settings, Display, Advanced once again, scroll down and we'll find the Side Sense option, Side Sense menu. Make sure that's toggled on. When we go back, you trigger that by double tapping on the side of the phone, either side, simple double tap like that, and you get this pop-up panel that shows your most recently used apps. It shows some shortcuts for different settings. You can actually jump into the one-handed mode there, and this little cog at the bottom will let you jump into the settings menu for Side Sense itself. Now, Sony learns what apps you use and supposedly populates the little panel with those apps at different times of day, but you can also jump in here and specifically select the apps you want to be shown in there, and that's a really quite a useful little shortcut. One extra shortcut that we find useful when we're using the phone one-handed, the power button's here. Say you're in a conversation and you want to screenshot something, or perhaps you've just scored a high score in your game. You've only got one hand free. Normally you would have to hold down, volume down, and the power button to take a screenshot, and it can be quite awkward. With the Xperia XZ3, just hold down the power button, and along with the power off menu you get this little screenshot option, and you can tap that, and it's a really handy, easy way of taking a screenshot one-handed. Now, Sony also has an unusual button along the top here that you don't find on most phones, and that's this dedicated camera key. And it's, to our mind, the easiest and fastest way to fire the camera up. If you just hold that button down, you'll launch straight into the camera. Now, that also works if the screen's turned off. Just hold that shutter button down and you jump straight into the camera. It's a really good way of getting the camera open quickly. Now, if we hit this little gear icon to get the camera settings up, we can scroll down here and we'll find the option for this key, launch with camera key, right here, and you can tell it just to launch, or you can tell it to launch and automatically capture a photograph, and that can be useful if you're trying to capture something spontaneous and you're in a rush. Now, another thing Sony does is they let you use the volume keys to zoom in and out. So if we press volume up rather, we zoom in. If we press volume down, we zoom out. If you don't like that behavior for some reason, once again, jump into this camera settings menu and you can change it just to volume or shutter. But we find it works really quite nicely. Now, our next tip concerns getting a good night's sleep, and when you've got a great phone, the temptation is to leave it on all the time and to allow it to encroach on your shut eye, which isn't a good thing. So 2 things that we think you should always set up with a new phone. Number 1, if we jump into settings, which you can also do by jumping through this quick settings menu, we'll go to settings, sound, and scroll down to do not disturb. And you should really make use of this. I mean, we tend to set up a schedule for ours so it turns on automatically. You can add a rule so it turns on at a certain time, or it can be triggered by an event such as a meeting. You can set up exceptions so certain calls still get through or certain callers still get through. But we recommend you turn it on for nighttime hours, and that just stops your phone from bothering you. Another good one, and most phones have this now, is some kind of blue light filter. So if we jump into settings, display, advanced, and scroll down, Sony's version is called night light. And we always schedule ours. At the moment it's 10 till 6, but You can also just choose sunset to sunrise, and it will base the nightlight on wherever you live, whenever the sunset and sunrise time is. And all nightlight does is it filters out the blue light. Now, blue light tends to stop you producing melatonin, which is one of the chemicals that helps you fall asleep at night. So it's a good idea to use the nightlight feature there. The last thing we're going to look at here is an unusual setting that you'll only find in Sony's phone in its recent flagships. And we'll jump into settings. It's in sound again, and it's called dynamic vibration, and you can toggle it on and off here. And what this is designed to do is make the phone vibrate along with music, with movies, or with games. Now, it doesn't unfortunately work with every game that we've tried, and we're not 100% convinced that it's a great thing that it works along with movies. But if you're playing your content, we'll just skip this ad and go into a trailer. This is a trailer for the new Pet Cemetery. If you tap the volume button, then you'll see this dynamic vibration option here alongside the volume controls, and you can set different vibrations levels. If you set it to the highest level, it vibrates quite a lot. If there's a loud noise, if the music changes or whatever, the phone vibrates along with it, and it's supposed to make content a little bit more immersive. We like the idea for games. It's like the kind of vibration you would get in a DualShock controller. It's just a shame it doesn't work with every game, but we're not convinced that you should use it in movies. Sometimes dead is better. So if that hasn't sated your appetite for tricks for the Xperia XZ3, then head over to Digital Trends, where you'll find a couple of articles with some extra tips and tricks you can try out yourself.